The sound of skin striking skin cut through the symphony of champagne flutes and society whispers at exactly 9:42 p.m. time froze beneath the crystal chandeliers of Buckhead's Diamante Ballroom. 300 Atlanta elites in black tie and couture gowns collectively held their breath as Cole Harrington, tech billionaire, philanthropist, and the evening's honoree, stood with his hands still suspended in air, the echo of his slap hanging between him and Nicole Brooks. Would you accept comfort from the same hands that once hurt you? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Nicole's honey blonde hair had fallen across her face, but she didn't move to fix it. Instead, she straightened her spine inside her emerald gown, her cheek blooming red, and stared directly into the eyes of the man she'd once called husband. You look disgusting. Like something I paid to get rid of, Cole hissed, his polished exterior cracking to reveal something raw and ugly beneath. Cameras flashed. Phones recorded. The moment was already becoming digital currency. What no one captured, what no one but Nicole knew, was that beneath her fitted gown, she carried his children. 6 weeks pregnant with twins conceived from embryos they'd frozen during their marriage. Embryos he'd signed away rights to, thinking she'd never use them. She hadn't planned the slap, but she planned everything that would follow. You still don't understand, Nicole said quietly, her voice carrying in the shocked silence. I was never yours to control. With perfect posture, she turned and walked through the parting crowd, leaving Cole Harrington, the man who'd spent a decade shaping Silicon Valley's moral future, standing alone in a spotlight he couldn't escape. Nobody followed her out. Nobody dared. In the back of the waiting Uber, Nicole finally allowed her composure to crack. Her hand trembled as she touched her stinging cheek, the flesh hot beneath her fingertips. She caught the driver watching in the rearview mirror and turned toward the window, hiding her face. Change of plans, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Take me to Peachtree Center instead. The driver nodded without comment, changing lanes to adjust their route. Nicole pulled out her phone, ignored the 15 missed calls already lighting up the screen, and dialed the one person she could trust. It happened, she said when Mia answered. Exactly like we thought it would. Are you okay? Mia's voice was tight with concern. Did he hurt you badly? I'm fine, Nicole replied, touching her cheek again. The camera's got everything. I'm watching it now, Mia confirmed. It's already trending. Hashtag Harrington Assault is taking off. Nicole closed her eyes briefly. And the rest of the plan? Eliza has the paperwork ready. The moment he tries to initiate damage control, she'll file. Good. Nicole ended the call as the Uber pulled up to the gleaming glass tower where Atlanta's most ruthless divorce attorney maintained offices on the top floor. Even at nearly 11 at night, Eliza Wong was waiting, her sleek gray suit as perfectly pressed as if it were the middle of the business day. She rose from behind her desk when Nicole entered, her sharp eyes immediately going to the reddened cheek. We should photograph that, she said by way of greeting. Evidence. Nicole nodded, setting her clutch on the desk between them. He did exactly what we predicted. Complete public meltdown. Men like Cole Harrington can't stand public humiliation, Eliza agreed, using her phone to capture images of Nicole's face from multiple angles. Especially not from women they believe they own. Ex-wife, Nicole corrected. He hasn't owned me for 2 years. Eliza's perfectly arched eyebrow indicated what she thought of that distinction. And yet here we are, planning a legal strategy against him. If you were truly free of Cole Harrington, you wouldn't need me. Nicole sank into the visitor's chair, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the gala was fading, leaving bone-deep weariness in its wake. Have there been any leaks about the pregnancy? She asked. Eliza shook her head. Your medical records remain private. Unless you've told someone, only Mia knows. And you. Then we maintain that advantage. Eliza sat across from her, pulling a thick file from her desk drawer. With tonight's assault captured on video, we have multiple leverage points. His public violence, the embryo contract violations when he learns of the pregnancy, and most importantly, the Harrington family trust stipulations. Nicole leaned forward slightly. You found something in the trust. A rare smile curved Eliza's lips. "I found everything. The Harrington Technologies voting shares transfer to any Harrington bloodline heirs upon birth. Not upon majority, upon birth. But the babies aren't born yet," Nicole pointed out. "No, but once your pregnancy becomes public, the board will have to consider the implications. 2 Harrington heirs arriving in approximately 7 months means power dynamics shift dramatically." Nicole absorbed this, one hand unconsciously moving to her still flat stomach. "Cole will fight this. Once he realizes I'm pregnant with his children, he'll try to claim you violated the divorce agreement," Eliza finished for her. "But he's the one who signed away rights to the embryos. His own legal team drafted that language, confident you'd never be able to afford the storage fees, let alone the implantation costs." The memory of those days after the divorce still had the power to hollow Nicole from the inside. The humiliation of moving back to her mother's modest home, returning to teaching art at a local middle school, counting pennies while Cole's wealth multiplied. She kept those embryos through painful sacrifices he couldn't begin to imagine. "When do we announce the pregnancy?" Nicole asked. "We don't," Eliza replied. "We let him make the next move. His public assault has already damaged him. Let him dig deeper, trying to explain or justify it." Nicole's phone buzzed with an incoming text. She glanced down to see a message from an unknown number. "You made a serious mistake tonight. My car. 20 minutes. We can fix this quietly." She turned the phone toward Eliza, who read the message with narrowed eyes. "Classic Cole," Nicole said tiredly. "He still thinks he can control the narrative. He's offering to buy your silence," Eliza observed, "which means he's panicking." "Good." Nicole deleted the message without responding. Let him panic. As she left Eliza's office an hour later, strategic plans in place, Nicole paused at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta's glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, Cole Harrington was realizing that his carefully constructed world had just begun to unravel. She pressed her palm flat against her abdomen, feeling a fierce protectiveness for the tiny lives taking shape within. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about securing their future, a future where they would never be controlled by the Harrington legacy the way she had been controlled by the Harrington name. "I'll protect you," she whispered to her unborn children, "no matter what he does next." Have you ever calculated exactly what revenge would cost you, down to your last heartbeat? Nicole whispered to her reflection in the window. Would you trade everything you are for justice? 6 weeks pregnant with his twins, and he had no idea she'd kept the embryos he signed away. The next move would cost her everything, or finally set her free. The Charlotte Fertility Clinic hadn't changed in the year since Nicole had last walked through its frosted glass doors. Same sterile smell, same soft music designed to soothe anxious would-be parents, same receptionist with a sympathetic smile. "Ms. Brooks," the woman greeted her. "Dr. Patel is expecting you." Nicole nodded, smoothing down her simple blue dress, the opposite of the designer clothes Cole had insisted she wear during their marriage. Her own clothes, her own body, her own choice. Dr. Patel's office was a warm contrast to the clinical waiting area. Bookshelves lined with medical texts and framed photos of smiling babies, desk polished to a soft glow under gentle lighting. "Nicole," the doctor rose to greet her. "Congratulations on the positive pregnancy test. How are you feeling?" "Empowered," Nicole answered honestly. "And terrified." The doctor nodded, understanding both emotions. "We have much to discuss, including your unique legal situation." Nicole took the thick folder the doctor slid across the desk. Inside were her complete fertility records, every failed attempt, every crushing disappointment during her marriage, and finally, the successful embryo creation that Cole had dismissed as a waste of money once he'd decided their marriage was over. "You've reviewed the legal documents?" Nicole asked. "Thoroughly," Dr. Patel confirmed. "The consent forms Mr. Harrington signed are binding. He relinquished all rights to the embryos as part of your divorce settlement. Legally, these children are solely yours." Nicole's fingers traced Cole's bold signature on the final page. She remembered the day he'd signed it, his fountain pen moving confidently across the paper, his expression smug as he'd told his lawyer, she'll never use them anyway. She can barely take care of herself. She closed her eyes, feeling the ghost of his hands on her body. The way he'd once held her face between his palms like she was precious. The way he'd later used those same hands to gesture dismissively when speaking about her to others, as if she weren't in the room. "There's something else you should know," Dr. Patel said, interrupting Nicole's thoughts. She pulled out another document. The genetic screening Mr. Harrington insisted on during the IVF process revealed something he may not be aware of. Nicole took the paper, scanning the medical terminology until she found what the doctor was indicating. A genetic marker for early-onset Alzheimer's. It's not a guarantee, merely an increased risk factor, Dr. Patel explained. But given Mr. Harrington's family history that he disclosed during intake, it's significant. Cole's grandmother had died of Alzheimer's before Nicole met him. He rarely spoke of her, but when he did, cold fear edged his voice. For a man whose identity was built on his brilliant mind, the idea of losing cognitive function was worse than death. "Does he know?" Nicole asked. "Patient confidentiality prevented us from sharing your results with each other after the separation. Unless he specifically requested his own genetic screening results, he wouldn't know." Nicole folded the paper carefully, placing it in her purse. Another card to play or to hold. She hadn't decided. "I have one more thing for you," Dr. Patel said, reaching into her desk drawer. She withdrew a sealed envelope marked Harrington, 2 embryos viable. "The confirmation you requested. For your records." Nicole's hand trembled slightly as she accepted the envelope. Inside was proof, official documentation that these embryos existed, were viable, and had been legally transferred to her sole custody. "Thank you," Nicole said, rising to leave. "Nicole," Dr. Patel called after her. "Whatever your reasons, remember, these are children, not chess pieces." Nicole paused at the door. "With all due respect, doctor, they can be both." In her hotel room that night, Nicole spread the documents across the bed. Her phone lit up with a text from Mia. "Video at 17.2 million views now. You're trending." Nicole opened her laptop and clicked on the link. The video had been edited masterfully, jumping from the slap of the gala to Nicole in the clinic opening the Harrington, 2 embryos viable envelope. The juxtaposition was devastating. Comments flooded in. Did he know she kept the embryos? That clause in the divorce papers, though. He literally signed his kids away. Billionaire tech bro about to lose everything to the woman he thought he erased. The pregnancy test turned blue as her phone lit up with his name. Perfect timing. She planned it that way. When someone erases you from their story, do you disappear quietly or rewrite the ending with your own blood? She whispered to the empty room, her hand moving to her stomach where his children grew. The choice had already been made. 17 million views and climbing, said the young producer across from Nicole. Her company logo, Vindication Media, gleamed on the business card she'd handed over. "Your story has everything: wealth, betrayal, comeuppance. We want exclusive rights to the next chapter." They sat in a quiet corner of a Durham coffee shop, far from the photographers who had begun camping outside Nicole's apartment building. "I haven't decided if there will be a next chapter," Nicole replied, stirring her decaf tea. "At least not on camera." The truth was more complicated. The viral video, showing the slap, then cutting to Nicole receiving the embryo documentation, had been a calculated first move. What came next needed to be even more strategic. "You can't just drop a bomb like this and walk away," the producer insisted. "People are invested now. They want to see Cole Harrington get what's coming to him." Nicole's phone buzzed with a text from her lawyer. "Harrington's legal team requesting meeting tomorrow. Urgent. I'll think about it," Nicole told the producer, gathering her things. "But my priority now is protecting these pregnancies." Outside, Nicole pulled her jacket tighter against the Carolina autumn chill. Her phone rang again. "Mia, have you seen what they're saying about you online?" Mia asked without preamble. "I'm trying not to look. Smart. Half are calling you a hero, half are calling you other things. Cole's PR team is pushing the narrative that you stole his genetic material." Nicole laughed bitterly. Funny how men think their DNA is stolen when a woman uses it exactly as they agreed in writing. She unlocked her apartment door, dropping her keys in the bowl by the entrance. The space felt different now, as if the walls had thinned, become permeable to the outside world's judgment. "He's been calling my mother," Nicole said, sinking onto her couch, trying to convince her I'm mentally unstable. "Classic abuser playbook," Mia replied. "Isolate and discredit. It won't work. My mother remembers how I came home after the divorce, 20 pounds lighter, jumping at loud noises. The memory of those dark months after leaving Cole rose like floodwater. How she'd sleep with the lights on because darkness reminded her of their bedroom in San Francisco, where he'd made love to her with devastating skill before coldly discussing her shortcomings. How she'd flinch when receiving calls because she'd grown accustomed to his voice, shifting from charming to cutting in the space of a heartbeat. "What does your lawyer say?" Mia asked. "That Cole has no legal standing to challenge the embryo agreement. But that won't stop him from trying to destroy me in other ways." A sharp knock at her door made Nicole freeze. "Someone's here," she whispered, moving to the peephole. A courier stood outside, another white envelope in hand. Nicole signed for the delivery with trembling fingers. Inside was another check, this one for $10 million and handwritten note. "Your point is made. End this now." "See, $10 million, Nicole said into the phone. "That's what he thinks his children are worth." "Nicole," Mia's voice was careful. "That's life-changing money. You could move anywhere. Start over." "That's the problem," Nicole replied, tearing the check precisely down the middle. "He still thinks this is about money." Her hand moved to her stomach, where the first hints of morning sickness had begun. These twins weren't bargaining chips. They were her future. But they were also justice for the years Cole had spent making her feel worthless while building his empire on the back of her sacrifices. "This was never about the money," Nicole said quietly. "This is about him learning he can't control everything, especially not me. Not anymore." Her laptop chimed with an email notification. Another interview request, this one from a major network. "They want to hear my side," Nicole mused. "But I'm not sure I'm ready to give it to them." "What are you waiting for?" Mia asked. "For Cole to realize what's really at stake." Nicole opened her closet and pushed aside hanging clothes to reveal a whiteboard covered in writing. Timeline, strategy points, legal precedents, contingency plans, and at the center, Harrington Tech, trust provisions. Her research had revealed the truth buried in Cole's family trust. Biological children would inherit controlling interest in Harrington Technologies upon reaching majority or upon the current CEO's incapacity. Cole had never told her this during their marriage, likely because he never intended to have children. Now those children existed. Inside her. "It's not just about the babies," Nicole admitted to Mia. "It's about what they represent. A future where he doesn't get to dictate every outcome." Her phone lit up with his 7th call of the day. She let it ring. "The 8th will be from his lawyer," she predicted. "And the 9th will make me choose between revenge and protection." As if on cue, her phone buzzed again, his lawyer's name appearing on the screen. "If you could weaponize your most intimate secret, would you pull the trigger, even knowing the bullet might ricochet?" Nicole asked quietly, more to herself than to Mia. The risk was enormous. Cole's resources were virtually limitless. His influence stretched across tech, media, and politics. Going to war with him meant potentially exposing her children to a lifetime of conflict. But walking away meant allowing him to believe he could erase people without consequences. Her phone buzzed with his 9th call. This time, Nicole answered. Nicole's childhood bedroom hadn't changed since high school. Same blue walls, same bookshelf crammed with art books and novels, same view of the maple tree that had taught her about seasons before she understood time. "You didn't have to come back here, sweetheart," her mother said, placing a cup of ginger tea on the nightstand. "Your apartment is perfectly fine." "The reporters found it," Nicole replied, adjusting the pillow behind her back. "And I needed somewhere that feels untouched by him." After the phone call with Cole, 8 icy minutes of threats wrapped in concern, culminating in his lawyer emailing custody paperwork. Nicole had packed a weekend bag and driven to her mother's house in the quiet neighborhood where she'd grown up. Durham was her reset button, the place where Nicole Brooks existed before Cole Harrington had attempted to remake her. "Your father called," her mother said cautiously. "He saw the video." Nicole stiffened. Her father had left when she was 12, starting a new family in Phoenix with his dental hygienist. His sporadic interest in her life usually coincided with her accomplishments, or now, apparently, her notoriety. What did he want? To make sure you're okay, and to remind you he knows a good family lawyer. Nicole laughed humorlessly. Now he's concerned about family. She sipped the tea, letting the warmth spread through her chest. Outside, autumn was painting Durham in amber and crimson, so different from San Francisco's perpetual cool green. The seasons here matched her moods, validated change as natural and necessary. Her phone chimed with a message from her lawyer. Harrington filed emergency motion. Hearing scheduled next week. "We're prepared." Nicole had expected this. Cole was accustomed to throwing money at problems until they disappeared. But she wasn't a problem. She was a person, with rights, boundaries, and now leverage. She opened her laptop and pulled up the document her legal team had prepared, her counterproposal. Not for money, but for recognition. A board seat at Harrington Technologies. Public acknowledgement of the children's paternity. Cole's resignation from the ethics committee he chaired at Stanford. Her phone rang. "Mia again. Have you seen this?" Mia asked immediately. "Seen what?" "Cole's giving a statement. Live. Turn on CNX." Nicole fumbled for the remote, turning on the small TV in her bedroom. Cole Harrington stood at a podium, looking appropriately somber in a perfectly tailored navy suit. His dark hair was artfully tousled, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass. Deeply personal matter that has been distorted by selective editing and social media speculation. He was saying, his voice carrying that practiced sincerity that had once made her believe every promise. "Nicole and I had agreed that any embryos created during our marriage would not be used without mutual consent. I'm devastated that she chose to violate that trust." Nicole's hands clenched into fists. "Liar," she whispered. "While I respect every woman's right to reproductive autonomy, this situation raises serious ethical questions about consent and parenthood. I'm asking for privacy as we work through this complex situation." A reporter shouted, "Mr. Harrington, will you seek custody?" Cole's expression shifted to one of pained nobility. "I believe every child deserves loving parents. I only wish this pregnancy had been approached with honesty rather than vengeance." Nicole turned off the TV, her heart pounding. "He's good," Mia said through the phone, flipping the narrative already. "He had lots of practice during our marriage," Nicole replied, opening her closet. At the back, behind winter sweaters, hung a garment bag she hadn't opened since leaving San Francisco. Inside was the dress she'd worn the night Cole had first taken her to bed, deep burgundy silk that had made her feel both powerful and vulnerable. He'd peeled it from her body with reverent hands, whispering that he'd never wanted anyone the way he wanted her. Her body responded to the memory with a rush of heat, even as her mind rejected it. The cruelty of desire, how it could linger long after love had died. She zipped the garment bag closed and pushed it back into darkness. "I need to prepare for the hearing," Nicole told Mia, "and for what comes after." On her desk, she placed 5 items in a row. Her prenuptial agreement, the embryo custody documents, Cole's genetic screening results, the trust provisions for Harrington Technologies, and a small silver frame containing her first ultrasound image. "When did you realize your body remembers what your mind wants to forget?" she whispered, touching the ultrasound picture gently. The pieces were in position. The next move was his. The law offices of Brennan, Wong and Associates occupied the top floor of Durham's most prestigious building. A glass tower that seemed to belong to a different city entirely. Nicole smoothed her navy maternity dress as the elevator climbed, her mother sitting silently beside her. "You don't have to do this," her mother said for the 3rd time. "You could accept the money. Move somewhere peaceful." "If I wanted peace, I wouldn't have used the embryos," Nicole replied, watching the floor numbers illuminate. "I wanted justice. The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area of leather and polished wood. Nicole's lawyer, Eliza Wong, waited to greet them, a woman whose designer suit and steel trap mind had cost Nicole a significant portion of her divorce settlement. "He's here," Eliza said without preamble, "with 2 attorneys and his PR director." Nicole nodded, unsurprised. Did they bring the restraining order? They brought everything: custody petitions, mental health evaluation requests, and a revised financial offer. Eliza led them down a corridor of closed doors. $15 million now, plus $5 million in a trust for each child. $25 million to disappear, Nicole translated. The price goes up. Nicole, her mother whispered urgently. That's more money than our entire family has seen in generations. It's pocket change to him, Nicole replied, and it comes with invisible strings. They paused outside the conference room door. Through the frosted glass, Nicole could make out the silhouettes of 4 people. One stood taller than the others, a shape her body recognized before her mind could process it. "Are you ready?" Eliza asked. Nicole took a steadying breath and nodded. The conference room fell silent as she entered. 3 faces turned toward her with professional neutrality. The 4th, Coles, remained impassive except for the muscle that jumped in his jaw. He looked exactly the same, yet completely different. Same expertly cut dark hair. Same broad shoulders beneath a charcoal suit worth more than her car. But his eyes were shadowed, his normally perfect posture slightly rigid. "Ms. Brooks," began the older of his 2 attorneys, "we appreciate your willingness to discuss this matter privately." Nicole took a seat directly across from Cole, meeting his gaze without flinching. This close, she could smell his cologne, the custom scent she'd once pressed her face against his neck to breathe in. "Let's skip the pleasantries," Eliza said, opening her briefcase. "Your client has made numerous public statements questioning my client's mental stability and ethical judgment, while simultaneously attempting to pressure her family members. We're prepared to file harassment charges if this behavior continues." Cole's PR director leaned forward. "We strongly dispute that characterization." "We're not here to argue," Cole interrupted, his voice low and controlled. His eyes hadn't left Nicole's face. "We're here to resolve this privately before it causes further damage to all parties." "All parties?" Nicole repeated, arching an eyebrow. "You mean before it causes further damage to your reputation and company valuation?" A flash of something, anger, frustration, perhaps even admiration, crossed Cole's face before disappearing behind his practiced mask. "The revised offer is more than generous," his younger attorney said, sliding a document across the table. "Full medical coverage, housing allowance, education trusts." "No," Nicole said simply. The room fell silent. "No." Cole finally spoke directly to her. $25 million isn't enough? "This isn't about money," Nicole replied, her voice steady despite the way her pulse quickened under his gaze. "It never was." She nodded to Eliza, who produced a different document. "My client's counterproposal," Eliza explained, distributing copies. "Ms. Brooks will retain full custody of the children. Mr. Harrington will acknowledge paternity publicly and privately. He will resign from the Stanford Ethics and Technology Committee. And Harrington Technologies will appoint Ms. Brooks to its board of directors, with a focus on the company's family leave policies and women's advancement initiatives." Cole's PR director choked on her water. The older attorney's eyebrows shot toward his hairline. The younger one began frantically flipping through the document. But Cole himself didn't move. His eyes remained locked on Nicole's face, a muscle working in his jaw. "You want a board seat," he said flatly. "And my company. I want acknowledgement," Nicole corrected. "That I exist. That these children exist. That you can't simply erase people when they become inconvenient." "This is absurd," the older attorney sputtered. "The board would never." "The board serves at the pleasure of the majority shareholder," Nicole cut in, "which is currently Mr. Harrington, and will eventually be his biological children." The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You've been busy," Cole said softly, dangerously. "Researching my family trust provisions. I had plenty of time while you were busy trying to buy my silence." Cole's attorneys and PR director exchanged nervous glances. This was clearly not how they'd expected the meeting to proceed. "We need to confer privately," the older attorney announced, gathering his papers. "Take your time," Eliza replied smoothly. As they filed out, Cole remained seated, motioning for his team to go without him. When the door closed, leaving him alone with Nicole, Eliza, and her mother, he leaned forward. "What are you really after?" he asked, his voice low. Nicole met his gaze steadily. "Exactly what I've outlined in that document." "Bullshit," he said, the polished veneer slipping. "You could have requested board representation in our divorce. You didn't. You never showed interest in Harrington Tech's operations during our marriage." "I never showed interest," Nicole corrected. "Where you never noticed my interest?" Cole's eyes narrowed, studying her as if seeing her for the first time. He leaned in closer. "I know your body better than anyone," he said, voice dropping to an intimate register that made her mother shift uncomfortably. "I'll know when you're lying." Nicole leaned forward to match his posture, close enough to see the flecks of amber in his brown eyes, close enough for her response to carry to him alone. "That works both ways." "Twins," the ultrasound technician announced, moving the wand across Nicole's gel-covered abdomen. "2 strong heartbeats." Nicole stared at the monitor, where 2 small fluttering pulses confirmed what the hormone levels had suggested. "Not 1 baby. 2. 2 Harrington heirs." "Would you like to hear the heartbeats?" the technician asked. Nicole nodded, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in her throat. The room filled with the rapid underwater galloping sound, the secret Morse code of life forming inside her. 150 beats per minute, then a second rhythm joining the first, slightly faster, slightly stronger. "They're fighters," the technician said with a smile, pressing buttons to capture images. "Both measuring right on schedule for 9 weeks. Nicole's eyes burned with unexpected tears. Until this moment, the pregnancy had been abstract, a strategic move, a counterweight to Cole's power. But the sound transformed everything. These weren't just leverage, they were lives. Her children. Her hand moved protectively over her stomach as the technician wiped away the gel. "Dr. Reynolds will review these images, but everything looks perfect," the technician said, handing Nicole printouts of the ultrasound. "Congratulations, Mama." In the privacy of the changing room, Nicole studied the ghostly images, 2 distinct sacs, 2 tiny beings with oversized heads and miniature limb buds. She traced their outlines with her fingertip, these fragments of herself and Cole, somehow separate from the war between their creators. Her phone vibrated in her purse. A text from Eliza, Harrington's team requesting genetic verification, claiming embryo mix-up possible. Nicole laughed bitterly. Of course, Cole couldn't accept defeat, so he was looking for technicalities, ways to claim she was carrying someone else's children. She typed back, "Schedule the test. I have nothing to hide." The door to the examination room opened, and Dr. Reynolds entered, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. "Everything looks excellent with the twins," she said, reviewing the images on her tablet. "But I'm concerned about your stress levels. Your blood pressure is elevated." "I'm in the middle of a complicated legal situation with the father," Nicole explained. "I know," Dr. Reynolds replied, looking up from her tablet. "It's difficult to miss when your patient is trending on social media, which is why I need to emphasize that stress isn't good for these babies. High blood pressure increases risks for preterm labor, growth restriction." "I understand," Nicole interrupted. "I'm trying to resolve things quickly." "Good, because medically speaking, my concern is for all 3 of you." She paused. "Has the father expressed interest in being involved in the pregnancy?" "He's expressed interest in controlling it," Nicole replied. "Not the same thing." The doctor nodded, making notes. "Well, either way, I'd like to see you again in 2 weeks. And please, try to find some peace in this situation. For the baby's sake." Peace was in short supply. By the time Nicole returned to her mother's house, 3 news vans were parked on the street. Someone had leaked her location. "This is getting out of hand," her mother said, closing the blinds against the telephoto lenses. "You can't live like this for 7 more months." It won't be like this for 7 months, Nicole assured her, though she wasn't certain herself. Once the DNA test confirms these are Cole's children, his team will change tactics. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Brooks," came a woman's voice. "This is Vanessa Chun from the Harrington Technologies Board of Directors. I wonder if we might speak privately." Nicole's pulse quickened. A board member reaching out directly wasn't in any of her anticipated scenarios. "How did you get my number, Ms. Chun?" "The same way I accessed your prenuptial agreement and divorce settlement," came the calm reply. "I have resources. May I come see you tomorrow?" Alone, Nicole considered her options. This could be a trap or an unexpected alliance. "Text me a place and time," she finally said. "Public location only." After hanging up, she sat heavily on her mother's sofa, suddenly exhausted. The pregnancy symptoms had hit hard this week. Constant nausea, breasts so tender that even soft fabrics hurt, fatigue that dragged at her limbs. Her phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line made her stomach clench. Genetic testing results, confidential. The test had been yesterday, a simple blood draw that could extract fetal DNA from her bloodstream. The results weren't supposed to be ready for days. She opened the email with trembling fingers, scanning past medical terminology to the conclusion. Paternity confirmed at 99.9998% probability. Genetic markers consistent with biological relationship to Cole Alexander Harrington. Attached was a second file, her complete prenatal genetic screening. And there, highlighted in yellow, was the same marker that had appeared in Cole's results. Genetic predisposition for early-onset Alzheimer's disease. Both twins carry the marker. Nicole pressed her hand to her mouth, the implications hitting her like a physical blow. Cole's greatest fear, losing his brilliant mind, was genetically encoded in his children. In her children. If he knew, would it change how he fought for them? Would it make him fight harder or disappear entirely? Her phone rang again. Cole's number. This time, she answered. "The test results were supposed to be confidential," she said without greeting. "I have sources at the lab," he replied, his voice tightly controlled. "Congratulations. You were telling the truth. Did you really think I wasn't?" A pause. I needed to be certain. Something in his tone made her press further. "And now that you are? What changes?" "I'm coming to Durham," he said. "Tomorrow. This conversation needs to happen in person. I'm not meeting with your legal team again. No teams. No lawyers. Just us." His voice dropped lower. "There are things you don't know, Nicole. Things that change everything." "Like what?" "Like the genetic screening results." Nicole's blood went cold. "What about them?" "Not over the phone," Cole said, "but it affects the children and how we move forward." After they hung up, Nicole sat perfectly still, her hands cradling her stomach where the twins grew, unaware of the genetic lottery they'd lost. Or had they? The marker wasn't a guarantee, just an increased risk. The doctor named a price that mocked mortals. She reached for his hand before he could speak. "We'll find it together. No more pretending." The coffee shop Vanessa Chin chose sat on the edge of Duke University's campus, neutral territory far from both media stakeouts and corporate eyes. Nicole arrived 20 minutes early, selecting a corner table with her back to the wall and clear sight lines to all exits. At precisely noon, a woman entered, mid-50s, elegantly dressed in a dove-gray pantsuit, her silver-streaked black hair cut in a sleek bob. She scanned the room with sharp eyes before spotting Nicole. "Thank you for meeting me," Vanessa said, sliding into the seat across from Nicole. She placed her designer handbag on the table, positioning it between them like a barrier or a shield. "You've gone to considerable trouble to arrange this," Nicole replied. "I'm curious why." Vanessa's perfectly manicured fingers tapped once against her coffee cup. "The Harrington Technologies Board is concerned about recent developments. Cole's public behavior has been erratic. Shareholders are nervous. And you think I can help with that?" "I think you're the cause," Vanessa said bluntly, "and possibly the solution." Nicole leaned back, one hand instinctively moving to her stomach, a protective gesture she developed without realizing it. "I'm carrying Cole's children. That's hardly a corporate crisis. It wouldn't be, Vanessa agreed, if not for the family trust stipulations, or Cole's reaction to the situation. She opened her handbag and removed a tablet, turning it to face Nicole. On screen was a security video of Cole in what appeared to be a Harrington Tech conference room, hurling a chair against a wall while two men attempted to calm him. This was yesterday, after the paternity confirmation, Vanessa explained. He's losing control, and for a man whose entire brand is built on controlled innovation, that's catastrophic. Nicole watched the silent footage of Cole's rage with a strange sense of vindication mingled with concern. She'd never seen him lose composure like this, not even during their worst arguments. Cole's weapon had always been icy precision, not explosive anger. Why show me this? Nicole asked. Because the board is preparing to vote on a temporary leadership transition, Vanessa replied, tucking the tablet away. And we need to know if you plan to exercise the children's future rights. Nicole's pulse quickened. This was moving faster than she'd anticipated. The children aren't even born yet. But you could file intent as their guardian, Vanessa pointed out, under the trust provisions that would trigger certain obligations from a board. Obligations? Financial oversight. Protection of assets. Limitations on Cole's decision-making authority. Vanessa's red-painted lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. In simple terms, we could remove him as CEO while preserving his children's future interests. Nicole studied the woman across from her, trying to discern the trap hidden within this unexpected offer. Why would you want that? Cole built Harrington Tech from nothing. Cole built it with other people's ideas, Vanessa corrected. He's brilliant at recognizing potential and ruthless about acquiring it. But lately, his judgment has been clouded. By me, Nicole guessed. Vanessa nodded. By you, by this situation, and by what I suspect is much more. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Cole and I have history. Personal history. The implication hung in the air between them. You were involved with him, Nicole stated flatly. Before you. Not during. Vanessa's expression remained neutral, professional. But long enough to recognize his patterns. Patterns? The love bombing, the gradual isolation, the subtle undermining of confidence. She ticked off each point on her manicured fingers. The way he makes you feel like the center of his universe, then shifts the ground beneath you until you're constantly off balance. Nicole's throat tightened. It was like hearing her own private experiences spoken aloud by a stranger. He told me I was imagining things, she said quietly, that I was too sensitive. He told me the same, Vanessa confirmed, and the woman before me, and likely others in between. Nicole's hands curled into fists on her lap. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what you're dealing with, Vanessa replied. This isn't just about inheritance or board seats or public relations. This is about a man who cannot stand to lose control, especially not to a woman he once controlled completely. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Nicole fought the urge to look over her shoulder, half expecting to find Cole watching them. What exactly are you proposing, Miss Chun? An alliance, Vanessa said simply. You file intent to protect the children's future interests. The board votes to temporarily limit Cole's authority. And you join us as a special advisor on family trust matters. And what do you get out of this arrangement? Vanessa's smile turned genuine for the first time. Let's just say there are several board members who believe Harrington Technologies has outgrown its founder. Nicole considered the offer, turning it over in her mind. It was tempting, a shortcut to the power she sought, but it also felt like trading one manipulation for another. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course, Vanessa replied, rising to leave. She placed a business card on the table. But don't take too long. Cole is meeting with the board tomorrow. As Vanessa walked away, Nicole's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Office of Dr. Victor Leong, Neurogenetics. Your consultation is confirmed for 3 p.m. today. Mr. Harrington will meet you there. Nicole stared at the message, a cold weight settling in her stomach. A neurogenetics specialist. Cole knew about the genetic marker. The board wanted her twins' future shares. Cole wanted what? To eliminate the risk of children who might inherit his greatest fear, or something else entirely, she pressed her hand against her midsection, feeling suddenly, fiercely protective. The board wanted her twins' future shares. Cole wanted the twins gone. She wanted him destroyed. Or did she? Dr. Liang's office occupied the top floor of Durham's Medical Research Center, a chrome and glass tower that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Nicole sat alone in the waiting room, having arrived early to compose herself. The receptionist had confirmed Cole hadn't arrived yet, giving Nicole precious minutes to prepare for whatever he planned to discuss regarding the genetic testing results. She scrolled through her phone, reading everything she could about the APO4 gene marker, the one highlighted in the twins' genetic screening. The information was simultaneously reassuring and terrifying. Carrying the marker increased risk for Alzheimer's but didn't guarantee it. Environmental factors, lifestyle choices, and emerging treatments could all influence outcomes. But for a man like Cole, whose identity was built entirely on his intellectual capabilities, even the possibility would be devastating. The waiting room door opened, and Cole walked in. He wore no suit today, just dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made him look almost ordinary. Almost. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, Nicole saw past the billionaire, past the manipulator, past the ex-husband, to the man who had once pressed his lips to her stomach and whispered promises of forever. "You came," he said, as if he'd half expected her to ignore his request. "You said it concerned the babies," she replied, one hand moving protectively to her midsection. Before he could respond, a nurse appeared. "Dr. Liang will see you now." They followed her down a corridor lined with framed medical certificates and research awards. The tension between them was a physical presence, thickening the air. Dr. Liang's office was surprisingly warm. Bookshelves lined with medical texts, but also family photos, plants thriving in sunlight, comfortable furniture arranged for conversation rather than examination. The doctor himself was a slight man with kind eyes behind rimless glasses. He rose to greet them, gesturing toward a small seating area. "Mr. Harrington, M.S. Brooks, thank you for coming. I understand you have questions about the genetic screening results." Cole sat forward, hands clasped between his knees. "I want to be clear about what the APO4 marker means for the twins." Dr. Liang nodded. The presence of one APO4 allele increases risk for early-onset Alzheimer's approximately threefold. However, it's important to understand this is a predisposition, not a prediction. Many people with this marker never develop the disease. But the risk is real, Cole pressed. And if preventive measures exist, that's why I asked you both here. Dr. Liang interjected gently. Because while we can't change genetic makeup, emerging research suggests we can influence how genes express themselves. Diet, exercise, cognitive engagement, stress management, all may help reduce risk. Nicole noticed Cole's knuckles whitening as he gripped his hands together. "You're saying we should plan these children's entire lives around preventing a disease they might never get," she said. "I'm saying awareness allows for proactive choices," Dr. Liang corrected. "Nothing more." Cole's jaw tightened. "My grandmother had early-onset Alzheimer's. I watched her disappear piece by piece. By 58, she didn't recognize her own children." The raw pain in his voice caught Nicole off guard. During their marriage, he'd rarely spoken of his grandmother beyond clinical mentions of her disease. "I'm sorry," Dr. Liang said quietly. "Family history does increase concern. But it's also worth noting that medical advances are occurring rapidly in this field. By the time your children reach adulthood, treatment options may be vastly improved." Cole stood abruptly, moving to the window. His back to them, he asked, "What about in utero interventions? Gene therapy?" Nicole stiffened. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we explore every option," Cole replied without turning. "Every medical advancement, every treatment. Cost is no object. These are developing babies, not technology products you can upgrade," Nicole said, anger rising. "You can't just edit out parts you don't want." Cole finally turned to face her, his expression raw with emotion she couldn't immediately identify. "This isn't about what I want. It's about sparing them what my grandmother endured." while my father watched his mother endure. Dr. Leong cleared his throat. Gene therapy for this particular marker is purely theoretical at this stage. And the ethical considerations. I don't care about ethical considerations, Cole interrupted. I care about protecting my children from a disease that destroys everything that makes a person themselves. The word hung in the air between them. My children, not the embryos, not the pregnancy. My children. Nicole felt suddenly lightheaded, the room tilting sideways as a rush of blood pounded in her ears. She gripped the armrests of her chair. Ms. Brooks, Dr. Leong was at her side instantly. Are you all right? Just dizzy, she managed, closing her eyes against the spinning sensation. Cole was beside her in an instant, his hand covering hers on the armrest. Nicole? What's happening? Dr. Leong pressed fingers to her wrist, counting her pulse. Her blood pressure is elevated. How have you been feeling, Ms. Brooks? Any headaches? Visual changes. Some headaches, she admitted. I thought it was just stress. I'd like to have you checked more thoroughly, Dr. Leong said, reaching for his phone. Pregnancy-induced hypertension requires monitoring. I'll take her to the hospital, Cole said immediately, his voice brooking no argument. Nicole wanted to refuse, to maintain the careful distance she'd established. But another wave of dizziness washed over her, and she found herself gripping Cole's hand instead of pushing it away. This is temporary, Nicole said for the third time as Cole carried her overnight bag into his guest house. Just until my blood pressure stabilizes. The guest house was larger than most people's primary homes, a modernist structure of glass and cedar nestled among towering pines on Cole's 10-acre estate outside Durham. He'd purchased it after their divorce, claiming to need a retreat from San Francisco's tech bubble. The doctor wants you monitored for at least a week, Cole replied, setting her bag in the bedroom. This is the most private option, unless you prefer hospital paparazzi. He had a point. When Nicole had been admitted for observation yesterday, photographers had somehow discovered her location within hours. The hospital had been forced to implement security measures typically reserved for celebrities. Her discharge this morning had involved a decoy patient and exit through the service entrance, all orchestrated by Cole's security team with military precision. I could have stayed with my mother, Nicole pointed out, though she knew it wasn't true. Her mother's modest home had become a media campground. Your mother is welcome to stay here too, Cole said, surprising her. There's plenty of room. Nicole eased herself onto the living room sofa, still feeling slightly unsteady. The diagnosis, pregnancy-induced hypertension with risk of developing preeclampsia, had frightened her more than she wanted to admit. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. If not controlled, it threatens both you and the babies. Cole moved around the space with the efficiency of someone accustomed to adapting to new environments. He adjusted the thermostat, opened windows to let in fresh air, arranged her medications on the kitchen counter. The main house is just through those trees, he explained, pointing through the wall of windows toward a path winding through the forest. But I won't intrude unless you need something. Nicole studied him, trying to reconcile this solicitous version with the man who had slapped her at the gala, who had tried to buy her silence, who had threatened legal action to control her pregnancy. Why are you doing this? She asked bluntly. Cole paused, hands stilling on the glass of water he'd been filling. Because regardless of how we got here, those are my children you're carrying. And right now, your health is their health. Convenient timing to develop paternal instincts. His jaw tightened. I admit I reacted badly at first, but the genetic testing changed things. Because now you're worried they'll inherit your grandmother's disease? Because now I understand what's truly at stake. He brought her the water and her prescribed medication. This isn't about the company or the trust or our past anymore. It's about two lives we created. Nicole swallowed the pill, watching him over the rim of her glass. And yet your lawyers haven't withdrawn the custody petitions. They will, Cole said. Tomorrow. She nearly choked on her water. What? I'm dropping the custody challenge, he repeated. On one condition. Of course there was a condition. There always was with Cole. What condition? She asked warily. That we develop a co-parenting plan focused on the children's well-being. including medical decisions regarding the genetic marker. Nicole set her glass down carefully. Co-parenting doesn't mean you get to make unilateral decisions about genetic interventions. I'm not asking for unilateral anything, Cole replied, taking a seat across from her. I'm asking for partnership in keeping them healthy and safe. The word hung between them, partnership. Once, they'd been partners in everything. Until Cole's need for control had corroded their relationship from the inside out. I need time to think, Nicole said finally, and to talk to my lawyer. Of course. He stood to leave. The kitchen is stocked. There's a panic button by the bed if you need anything. And I've arranged for a nurse to check your blood pressure twice daily. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Nicole, I am sorry. For all of it. After he left, Nicole sat motionless, listening to the silence of the forest surrounding her. From this guest house, she couldn't see any neighbors, any roads, any evidence of the outside world tracking her every move. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe without an audience. She moved to the bedroom to unpack, finding it furnished in exactly the style she'd always preferred. Minimal but warm, natural materials, soft textures. Not Cole's usual ultramodern aesthetic. He designed this space for her, even though he couldn't have known she'd ever see it. The thought unsettled her. In the bathroom, she ran a hot shower and stood under the spray, letting the water sluice away hospital antiseptic and media scrutiny. Her hands moved over her changing body, the slight roundness below her navel, the fuller breasts that ached constantly. 14 weeks pregnant with twins. Nearly 4 months of this strange new existence. She stepped from the shower and wrapped herself in a plush robe, catching her reflection in the steamy mirror. She looked different somehow, her features the same, but her eyes holding new knowledge, new purpose. The bedroom windows framed the forest beyond, late afternoon sun filtering through pine branches. She sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through missed messages on her phone. A text from Eliza. Need to discuss board development. Call when you can. Nicole frowned. Had Vanessa Chun approached her lawyer as well? A knock at the front door interrupted her thoughts. She tightened the robe and went to answer it, expecting the nurse. Instead, she found Cole, a large flat package under his arm. Sorry to disturb you, he said, but this arrived at the main house. He handed her the package, an overnight envelope from her doctor's office. Inside were printouts of yesterday's ultrasound, along with a USB drive containing video. They said you requested extra copies, Cole explained, already backing toward the door. Wait, Nicole said, surprising herself. Do you want to see them? Something flickered across his face. Vulnerability, hope, fear. She couldn't quite name it. Are you sure? She nodded, suddenly certain this was right. Whatever lay between them, anger, betrayal, manipulation, these children existed beyond that battlefield. And Cole deserved to see them. They sat side by side on the sofa as Nicole connected the USB drive to the television. The ultrasound video began playing, grainy black and white images resolving into 2 distinct shapes. That's baby A, Nicole explained, pointing to the screen. And that's baby B. They're fraternal, not identical. Cole leaned forward, his expression transforming into something she'd never seen before, wonder mixed with terror. They're perfect, he whispered. They're healthy, Nicole corrected. The marker doesn't change that. Without warning, one of the babies shifted position on screen, a tiny hand seeming to wave. Cole made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a gasp. His hand moved unconsciously toward the screen, then stopped, falling back to his side. The moment hung suspended between them, fragile, unexpected, real. She woke to his screams from another nightmare, the same one he'd had during their marriage. This time, she didn't go to him. This time, he came to her door instead. The knocking pulled Nicole from restless sleep, soft but insistent, just past 3 in the morning. She blinked at the bedside clock, disoriented for a moment before remembering where she was. Cole's guest house, day 4 of her medical confinement. Another knock, not urgent enough to be an emergency, but persistent. She switched on the lamp and pulled on her robe, padding to the door. Through the peephole, she saw Cole, hair disheveled, wearing only sweatpants, eyes haunted in the dim hallway light. She hesitated, then opened the door. "Sorry," he said immediately, voice rough with sleep. "I shouldn't have." "The nightmare," Nicole finished for him. "The one about your grandmother." Something shifted in his expression, surprised that she remembered, perhaps. During their marriage, he'd occasionally wake shouting, drenched in sweat, unable to explain the terror except to say it involved his grandmother not recognizing him. "I thought I was past them," he admitted. "They've started again since the genetic test results." He didn't need to finish. Nicole stepped back from the doorway, an invitation he didn't immediately accept. "It's 3 in the morning," she said. "I'm not going to send you back into the dark with your demons." He entered cautiously, as if crossing an invisible boundary. In the soft lamplight, she could see the sheen of sweat still drying on his chest, the tension in his shoulders. "Tea?" she offered, moving toward the kitchen. "Please." While the kettle heated, they maintained a careful distance. Nicole leaning against the counter, Cole standing by the windows, looking out into the darkness where the pines swayed gently in a midnight breeze. "My blood pressure is better," Nicole said, breaking the silence. "The medication is working." Cole nodded. "The nurse mentioned that." More silence as she poured hot water over tea bags, the fragrant steam rising between them. When she handed him a mug, their fingers brushed, a contact that once would have been unremarkable but now sent awareness cascading through her. They settled in the living room, Nicole on the sofa, Cole in an armchair, the coffee table in neutral zone between them. "I've been thinking about your co-parenting proposal," she said, curling her legs beneath her. "I have conditions." Something like relief crossed his face. "I expected nothing less. First, we make medical decisions together, but everyday choices are mine unless we agree otherwise. Second, you continue therapy for control issues. And third, we create legal guidelines for how we communicate about the children. No using them to manipulate each other." Cole nodded slowly. "Those are reasonable terms." "There's one more thing," Nicole continued. "The board seat offer. I want it in writing that it's mine regardless of our personal arrangement." A shadow passed over his expression. "Has Vanessa Chin been in contact?" Nicole's surprise must have shown on her face. "I'm not blind, Nicole," Cole said quietly. "The board sees opportunity in our situation. Chin especially. She mentioned your history." "I'm sure she did." His grip tightened on his mug. "Did she also mention she was passed over for CEO when my father retired? Or that she's been trying to build alliances against me for years?" Nicole sipped her tea, considering. "She implied you've shown a pattern with women. Control. Manipulation. And you believed her because it matched your experience," Cole stated flatly. "Not a question. Should I not have?" He set his mug down carefully. "I've made mistakes. With you especially. But Chun is playing her own game." The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken accusations and admissions. "Tomorrow morning," Cole said finally, "I'd like to show you something. After that, you can decide whether to trust me about the board." Morning arrived with golden light filtering through pine branches. Nicole found Cole waiting on the path between the guest house and main residence, his expression unreadable. "This way," he said, leading her not toward the main house, but along a side path she hadn't noticed before. They walked in silence until reaching a small outbuilding, newer than the others, with wide windows and a cedar deck. Cole unlocked the door and stepped back, allowing her to enter first. Inside, Nicole froze, her breath catching. The space had been designed as a nursery, not one, but 2 cribs crafted from pale wood stood waiting, walls painted a soft sea green, bookshelves filled with children's classics, a rocking chair by windows overlooking the forest. "You built this," she said, turning to face him. "When I started it after the paternity confirmation," Cole admitted. "Before the medical complications. Before everything." Her fingers traced the edge of one crib. "Handcrafted, not mass-produced." "Why?" "Because they're my children too," he said simply. "And I wanted them to have a place here." A paint swatch had been left on a small table, a square of deep blue with others in complementary shades. The color isn't final, Cole explained, noticing her attention. I thought, maybe we could decide together. The twins kicked for the first time as his hand rested on her stomach. Neither moved away. Neither acknowledged what it meant. Nicole stood in the nursery doorway, morning light streaming through the windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air. 2 weeks had passed since Cole had revealed this space to her, and she found herself drawn to it daily. Sitting in the rocking chair, running her fingers over the spines of childhood books, imagining two small beings filling this carefully crafted world. Her blood pressure had stabilized, but Dr. Reynolds had recommended she remain in the quiet of Cole's estate until she reached the 20-week mark. The arrangement had evolved into an uneasy truce. Cole working from the main house, Nicole establishing a routine in the guest house, their paths crossing intentionally rather than accidentally. The decorators need final approval on the mobile designs, Cole said, appearing behind her with a portfolio tucked under his arm. He maintained a careful distance, always conscious of her boundaries. I like the stars and planets concept, Nicole replied, moving to the table where fabric swatches and color samples were arranged in neat rows. At 18 weeks, her pregnancy had become undeniably visible, her figure now sporting a distinct bump that made strangers smile and her back ache by evening. The twins were active, especially at night, their movements no longer flutters but distinct nudges and rolls. Cole set the portfolio down, opening it to reveal detailed sketches. They can customize the planets to match the nursery colors. As they examined the designs, Nicole noticed a leather-bound journal peeking from beneath the furniture catalog on the table. Cole followed her gaze and moved to slide out of sight. "What's that?" Nicole asked. "Nothing important," he replied too quickly. Nicole raised an eyebrow. "For someone advocating transparency in our co-parenting arrangement, you're being oddly secretive." Cole hesitated, then pulled the journal free. "It's personal. From before." "Before what?" "Before us. During us." He paused. "After us." Something in his reluctance piqued her curiosity. During their marriage, Cole had never been one for journaling or sentimentality. His thoughts were typically channeled into spreadsheets and strategic plans, not handwritten reflections. "You kept a journal about our marriage?" "Not exactly." He held the leather-bound book, his thumb running over its worn edge. "It's more complicated than that." Their eyes met across the table, a silent negotiation. Finally, Cole placed the journal between them. "Read it if you want," he said quietly, "but not while I'm here." He left her alone in the nursery, the journal sitting on the table like a time bomb with a silent ticker. Nicole waited until evening to open it, curled in the window seat of the guest house as rain pattered against the glass. The journal's pages were filled with Cole's precise handwriting, dated entries spanning nearly a decade. The earliest entries surprised her most, written before they'd met, when Cole was still building Harrington Technologies. Page after page revealed a young man terrified of following his father's path, both professionally and personally. Dad called again about starting a family. Says the Harrington name needs heirs. All I can think about is watching Mom try to manage Grandma as she deteriorated, the toll it took, the way Dad retreated into work rather than face what was happening. Is that genetic too? This inability to be present when things get hard? Nicole turned pages, moving through time until she found entries from when they first met. And doesn't fit the profile of women I usually date. She challenges me, doesn't seem impressed by the trappings. Spent the entire evening asking about my grandmother after I mentioned her once. No one does that. Asks about the difficult parts. And later, during their early marriage, and brought up children again. The panic was immediate, like drowning while appearing perfectly calm above the surface. I deflected. Again, she deserves better than my fear. But how do I tell her I'm terrified of passing on more than just wealth to a child? The entries grew darker as their marriage progressed, revealing a man increasingly haunted by his genetic legacy while presenting a controlled face to the world and to his wife. Found myself researching genetic testing options again. And thinks I'm working late. The guilt is constant now. She wants a family so badly, and all I can think about is what might be hiding in my DNA, waiting to destroy not just me, but any child we might have. Nicole's hands trembled as she reached entries from their divorce period. Sign the embryo clause today. Lawyer assured me it's standard procedure, that most frozen embryos are never used. The relief was physical, like setting down a weight I've been carrying for years. The guilt came immediately after. And looked so defeated. I've broken something beautiful because I couldn't face my own fears. The final pages held entries from after the gala, after the slap that had set everything in motion. The paternity test confirms what I already knew. They're mine, and they carry the marker. The thing I feared most has happened. I've passed on the potential for this disease. But strangely, the panic I expected hasn't come. Instead, there's this fierce need to protect them, to find solutions, to be better than my father was, to face what he couldn't. Nicole closed the journal, her cheeks wet with tears she hadn't realized were falling. The man revealed in these pages wasn't the calculating manipulator she'd convinced herself he was during their worst moments. He was broken in ways she hadn't seen, or perhaps hadn't wanted to see. She found Cole in his home office, surrounded by screens displaying medical research articles. He looked up when she entered, his expression guarded when he saw the journal in her hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked simply. "About your fears. About the real reason you didn't want children." "Would it have changed anything?" he countered. "Would it have hurt less to know I was rejecting motherhood, not because I didn't want children with you, but because I was terrified of what I might do to them?" "Yes," Nicole said firmly. "The truth always hurts less than believing you just didn't want me enough." Cole's lips brushed her forehead as she pretended to sleep. "I never deserved you," he whispered. She kept her eyes closed, concealing the tears and the truth. The quarterly board meeting of Harrington Technologies fell on the same day as Nicole's 20-week ultrasound, a coincidence that left Cole torn between corporate obligation and personal commitment. "Go to your meeting," Nicole insisted, applying light makeup in the guest house bathroom mirror. "Dr. Reynolds said this is routine. You can see the detailed anatomy scan next week." "I've already moved the board meeting twice," Cole replied from the doorway, watching her with that new intensity that still unsettled her, as if she might vanish if he looked away. "They're getting restless." In the weeks since Nicole had read his journal, something had shifted between them. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. A foundation for whatever came next. "Has Vanessa Chen made any more moves?" Nicole asked, meeting his eyes in the mirror. Cole's jaw tightened. "She's called for a vote on restructuring executive leadership. Today, she's making her power play." With perfect timing, Cole agreed. "While I'm distracted by personal matters." Nicole turned to face him directly. "Then don't be distracted. Go handle your board. I can manage one ultrasound appointment alone." He seemed about to argue, then nodded once. "Text me the moment it's done. Every detail." "I will," she promised. They developed new patterns over these weeks of shared space. Professional courtesy layered over old intimacies, creating something neither had experienced before. Not quite friendship, not quite reconciliation, but a careful collaboration centered around the twins. "And Nicole," Cole added as she gathered her purse, "be careful. Chen has resources everywhere." The ultrasound confirmed what Nicole had begun to suspect: twin girls. She watched in wonder as the technician pointed out tiny features: fingers, toes, the curves of their spines, the chambers of their hearts. Both measuring perfectly, the technician announced. "Excellent development." Nicole wiped away a tear, overwhelmed by the clarity of the images. These weren't just flutters inside her anymore. They were people with distinct profiles, with beating hearts, with futures. In the doctor's office afterward, Dr. Reynolds reviewed the findings. "Everything looks wonderful, Nicole. Your blood pressure is stabilized, the babies are growing appropriately, and the placental health is excellent." "And the genetic markers?" Nicole asked, the question that never fully left her mind. "As we've discussed, the presence of APO4 doesn't affect fetal development. That's a consideration for the future." Dr. Reynolds closed the file. "How are things with the father?" Nicole hesitated. Complicated, but better. We're working on a co-parenting framework. That's good to hear, the doctor said. Stress reduction is crucial for maintaining your blood pressure control. As Nicole left the medical building, she typed a quick message to Cole. Perfect ultrasound. 2 healthy baby girls. Call when your meeting ends. The reply came immediately. Girls? You're sure? Nicole smiled at his response. She could almost see his expression of stunned joy and terror. 100% confirmed. Twin daughters. She was sliding her phone into her purse when a familiar voice called her name. Ms. Brooks? A moment, please. Vanessa Chun stood by a sleek black car, looking impeccable in a tailored gray suit despite the summer humidity. I'm surprised to see you here, Nicole said, instantly on guard. Shouldn't you be voting to restructure Harrington Technologies right about now? Vanessa smiled thinly. The vote has been temporarily delayed, which is why I wanted to speak with you directly. She opened the car door. May I offer you a ride? This conversation requires privacy. Every instinct told Nicole to refuse, yet curiosity pushed her forward. What game was Chun playing now? Inside the car's climate-controlled interior, Vanessa wasted no time. The board meeting hit an unexpected obstacle. Cole presented documentation of several board members, including myself, attempting to manipulate company affairs through you. Nicole kept her expression neutral. That sounds serious. It's potentially criminal, Vanessa corrected. Corporate manipulation, attempted shareholder fraud. Unless what? Unless you help us demonstrate that Cole has become unstable, that his focus on personal matters, specifically this pregnancy, has compromised his judgment. Nicole laughed incredulously. You're asking me to testify against him? After you just admitted to manipulating me? I'm offering you a better deal, Vanessa replied coolly. The board is prepared to guarantee your daughter's future interests and your position as their guardian in exchange for your cooperation. My cooperation in destroying their father, Nicole clarified. In removing an unstable element from their future company, Vanessa countered. Cole isn't well, Nicole. Surely you've seen it. The mood swings, the obsessive behaviors, the paranoia. Nicole studied the woman beside her, seeing clearly for the first time the calculation behind her polished exterior. What exactly are you suggesting is wrong with him? Early cognitive decline isn't uncommon in families with his genetic history, Vanessa said smoothly. The board would support a temporary medical leave while he seeks evaluation. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. You know about the genetic marker. You're trying to use his greatest fear against him. I'm trying to protect a multi-billion-dollar company from a leader who may be compromised, Vanessa insisted. The same company your daughters will inherit. Nicole reached for the door handle. I think this conversation is over. Consider carefully, Nicole, Vanessa called as she stepped out. Without our protection, Cole could lose everything before your daughters are old enough to inherit anything at all. Victory tasted sweet, but not as intoxicating as his kiss in the elevator afterward, with no cameras, no lawyers, no audience. Just surrender. Nicole woke to her phone vibrating incessantly on the nightstand. 4:37 in the morning. Never a good time for calls. Hello, she answered groggily. Turn on the news. Mia's voice was tight with urgency. Any channel. Nicole fumbled for the remote, clicking on the bedroom television. The screen filled with her own face. Not recent footage, but images from her teaching days spliced with photos from her marriage to Cole. The headline crawling beneath made her stomach drop. Tech billionaire's ex-wife. Embryo theft or strategic pregnancy. What is this? Nicole whispered, sitting upright in bed. It broke an hour ago, Mia explained. Someone leaked your complete fertility treatment history, including psychological evaluations questioning your stability after multiple failed IVF attempts. Nicole watched in horror as the morning news program displayed medical documents, her private records, while commentators debated the ethics of her pregnancy. Raises serious questions about consent and reproductive autonomy. Sources close to Harrington claim he was blindsided by the embryo use. History of emotional instability following the couple's divorce. Her phone beeped with another call. Eliza, her lawyer. I have to go. Nicole told Mia. Call you back. She switched calls. Eliza, are you seeing this? I'm already drafting cease and desist letters, Eliza replied grimly. But the damage is spreading. Every outlet is running it. Who leaked my medical records? Nicole demanded. That's illegal. We'll investigate, but right now we need to focus on damage control. These records paint you as emotionally unstable and obsessed with having Cole's children at any cost. The room suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in. Nicole struggled to breathe, a tightness gripping her chest. Nicole. Eliza's voice seemed distant. Stay calm. Stress isn't good for your blood pressure, remember? A sharp knock at her door startled her. Cole stood outside in rumpled clothes, his face haggard with anger and concern. I just saw, he said when she opened the door. Are you okay? Does it look like I'm okay? Nicole gestured toward the television, still broadcasting her private pain to the world. Someone leaked everything. My therapy sessions during IVF, notes from doctors about my emotional state after failures, everything. Cole moved past her, grabbing the remote to change channels. Every news station carried some version of the same story. This wasn't me, he said fiercely, turned to face her. I need you to know that. Then who? Nicole demanded. Who else had access to those records? Who else would benefit from making me look unstable? Cole's expression darkened. Chun, the board member? Nicole sank onto the sofa, one hand protectively covering her stomach where the twins stirred restlessly. Why would she expose my medical history? Because I blocked her power play yesterday, Cole explained, pacing the room. I presented evidence of her manipulation attempts to the board. This is retaliation and a message. A message saying what? That she can hurt you to get to me. Cole stopped pacing, his face shifting from anger to resolve. I'm calling a press conference. Today. We need to get ahead of this. No, Nicole said firmly. No more public spectacles. That's exactly what she wants, to keep us reactive, emotional, off balance. Cole looked ready to argue, then deflated slightly. You're right, but we can't just let this narrative stand. Nicole's phone rang again, an unknown number. She answered cautiously. Ms. Brooks, came a woman's voice. This is Shannon Liu from the New York Times. We're running a feature on your situation and wanted to offer you the opportunity to comment. Cole watched as Nicole's expression hardened. Ms. Liu, she replied coolly, I'll give you an exclusive statement if you're willing to investigate who illegally accessed and distributed my private medical records. A federal crime, I believe. A pause on the line. We're certainly interested in all aspects of this story. Then I'll have my lawyer contact your editor. Nicole ended the call, meeting Cole's surprised gaze. That was impressive, he said. I taught middle school art for years, Nicole reminded him. I know how to handle sharks circling blood in the water. Despite everything, a small smile tugged at Cole's lips. I always underestimated you, even when I thought I was seeing you clearly. The moment stretched between them, acknowledgement of old patterns, glimpses of new understanding. Nicole's phone chimed with a text from Mia. It's worse. They're saying you had miscarriages because of psychological issues. Chen just gave an interview expressing concern about your fitness as a mother. Cole read the message over her shoulder, his body tensing. She's crossed every line. She's trying to provoke us, Nicole said, though rage bubbled beneath her calm exterior. If we lash out publicly, it reinforces her narrative that we're both unstable. Then we don't lash out publicly, Cole replied, an edge entering his voice. We respond strategically. He moved to the window, staring out at the forest beyond. When he turned back, his expression had shifted to something Nicole recognized from their marriage, the look that had intimidated tech rivals and investment bankers alike. Nicole, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest, he said quietly. Do you trust me to handle this? Not control it, not manage you, but work with you as a team. The question hung between them, weighted with their history, with every moment he'd made decisions for her rather than with her. I don't know, she answered honestly. Fair enough, he acknowledged. Then let me earn that trust. Give me 24 hours to put a plan in motion. If you don't like it, we go your way instead. Nicole studied him, The man who had once been her everything, then her enemy, now something undefined. The father of her children. A flawed man trying to be better. 24 hours, she agreed. As Cole left to make calls, Nicole turned back to the television where commentators continued dissecting her private pain for ratings. The betrayal burned inside her, matching the fury in Cole's eyes when he'd read Chen's accusation. Nicole confronts Cole, believing he orchestrated the leak. Their argument escalates until he pushes her against his office wall. Not in anger, but passion. "I would never hurt you again," he growls before kissing her with desperate hunger. She responds with equal fervor before shoving him away, confused and furious at her own weakness. The pain woke Nicole just after midnight, a crushing band tightening across her abdomen, stealing her breath. She fumbled for her phone in the dark, fingers shaking as she dialed. Cole answered on the first ring. "Nicole? What's wrong?" "Something's not right," she managed between shallow breaths. "The babies, I think something's happening." He was at her door in minutes, still wearing the clothes he'd had on earlier. He hadn't been sleeping either. The sight of her doubled over sent fear flashing across his face. "I'm taking you to the hospital," he said, already lifting her into his arms despite her weak protests. Now, the night blurred into fragments. The rush through darkened forest to his waiting car, his voice steady on the phone to her doctor while he drove, his hand gripping hers as hospital doors slid open to admit them. 22 weeks pregnant with twins, the admitting nurse repeated, typing rapidly. "And you're experiencing contractions?" "Yes," Nicole gasped as another wave of pain crested. "But it's too early. They can't come now." Medical staff moved with practiced efficiency, transferring her to a wheelchair, attaching monitors starting in 4-line. Cole never left her side, his face composed in a way that might have seemed cold to others, but that Nicole recognized as his response to terror. Control focused to a laser point. "DR." Reynolds arrived as nurses positioned monitors over Nicole's swollen abdomen, her normally calm demeanor tinged with urgency. "Preterm labor," she confirmed after examining Nicole. "We need to stop it immediately. The twins aren't viable at 22 weeks. Nicole's vision tunneled at the word viable, fear clawing up her throat. "Do whatever you have to do," Cole told the doctor, his voice leaving no room for hesitation. "Cost is irrelevant." Medication flowed through Nicole's 4, doctors and nurses moving in choreographed precision around her. Monitors beeped steadily, 2 rapid heartbeats continuing their underwater gallop, each blip a tiny victory. Hours passed in a haze of medication and monitoring. Cole remained beside her bed, his hand anchoring hers, his eyes never leaving the screens tracking their daughter's heartbeats. Near dawn, Dr. Reynolds returned, her expression cautiously optimistic. "The contractions are subsiding," she reported. "The medication is working. But you'll need to remain hospitalized for at least a week, possibly longer." "Whatever it takes," Nicole whispered, exhaustion dragging at her limbs. "I'll have a care team assembled," Cole said immediately. "Private nurses, specialists." "Mr. Harrington," Dr. Reynolds interrupted gently, "the hospital has excellent staff. What Ms. Brooks needs now is rest and reduced stress." When the doctor left, silence settled over the room, broken only by the steady beeping of monitors. Morning light had begun filtering through the blinds, painting pale stripes across the blankets. "I thought we were going to lose them," Nicole finally said, her voice small in the quiet room. Cole's grip on her hand tightened. "I know. The whole time, all I could think was, all this fighting, all these power plays, none of it matters if they don't survive." "None of it does," Cole agreed, his voice rough with emotion he rarely displayed. "Nothing matters except their safety. And yours." Nicole turned to study his face, the shadows under his eyes, the stubble darkening his jaw, the vulnerability she'd once believed him incapable of showing. "I was so angry at you," she admitted. "For so long. I thought you never really wanted me, just some version of me that fit your life plan." "I wanted you too much," Cole replied, meeting her gaze directly. "So much that it terrified me. I'd never needed anyone before." My father taught me that needing people was weakness. And now I know he was wrong about that. Like he was wrong about so many things. Cole ran his free hand over his face. I've made countless mistakes, Nicole, but loving you wasn't one of them. I just didn't know how to do it properly. The monitors continued their steady rhythm, two hearts beating, oblivious to the complicated emotions of their parents. Nicole felt tears gathering, her hormones and exhaustion breaking down the walls she'd built. I need to tell you something, Cole said suddenly. About Chun and the leaked records. Nicole tensed. What about them? I found the source. It wasn't actually Chun, it was her assistant acting on her orders. We have proof, emails, access logs, everything. How did you get that evidence? A ghost of his old confident smile appeared. Let's just say Harrington Technology's cybersecurity team is exceptionally motivated when their CEO makes something a priority. Is it enough to press charges? Criminal and civil, Cole confirmed. The board has already called an emergency session. Chun will be removed by this afternoon. Relief washed through Nicole, not just at the news, but at the realization that Cole had handled the situation exactly as promised. Not by controlling her or making unilateral decisions, but by using his resources to protect their family while keeping her informed. There's something else, he continued, reaching into his pocket. He withdrew a small velvet box, placing it on the bed between them. Nicole stared at it, her heart suddenly racing faster than the monitors could track. It's not what you think, Cole said, seeing her expression. Open it. Inside was not a ring, but a small golden key. What is this? She asked, lifting it carefully. Access to my personal files, Cole explained. Financial records, medical history, trust documents, everything. Complete transparency. If we're going to co-parent, you deserve to know exactly who you're dealing with. Nicole closed her fingers around the key, its weight small but significant. I don't need access to your personal files, Cole. I just need you to be honest with me. To see me as an equal, not someone to be managed. I'm trying, he said simply. Every day. Another contraction seized her then, milder than before, but still frightening. Cole's hand tightened on hers as monitors beeped in alarm. Dr. Reynolds returned quickly, examining the readouts with a practiced eye. We need to increase the medication, she decided, and possibly consider corticosteroids to help the baby's lungs develop, just in case. As the medical team adjusted her treatment, Nicole held onto Cole's hand like an anchor. Whatever lay between them, broken trust, lingering anger, complicated desire, faded against the single goal of keeping their daughter safe. I can't lose you, any of you, Cole whispered, his forehead pressed against hers as the crisis passed. When the danger passes, his relieved kiss starts gentle, but deepens into something that makes the nurse clear her throat and leave. 3 months after the preterm labor scare, Nicole sat in a rocking chair by the nursery window, watching autumn leaves drift past the glass. At 34 weeks pregnant, her body had become a geography of stretching and accommodation. Skin taut across her rounded abdomen, back constantly aching, feet swollen beyond recognition. But the twins were safe, growing stronger each day inside her. The doctors now spoke confidently of a near-term delivery rather than a dangerous premature birth. The designer sent final approval images for the nursery mural. Cole said, entering with his tablet. He'd moved her into the main house after the hospitalization, the guest house too isolated if another emergency arose. Their living arrangement remained carefully structured, separate bedrooms, shared common spaces, clear boundaries that occasionally blurred during late-night conversations or moments of unexpected connection. Let me see, Nicole said, shifting to make room for him on the window seat beside her rocking chair. He showed her the digital rendering, a forest scene with gentle animals and moonlight filtering through trees. Nothing princess-themed or aggressively pink, just nature rendered in calming colors. It's perfect, she approved. When will they start? Tomorrow, if that works for you. They'll use non-toxic paints, of course. Nicole smiled at his thoroughness. Cole had researched everything from organic mattresses to air purification systems with the same intensity he once applied to corporate acquisitions. The doctor says we should prepare for their arrival any time after 36 weeks, Nicole said, resting her hands on her stomach where one of the twins was performing what felt like gymnastics. Twins rarely go full term. Cole nodded, his expression shifting to the mixture of joy and terror that appeared whenever they discussed the imminent birth. The hospital suite is ready. Private entrance, security protocols in place. They'd learned from the media circus following her hospitalization. This time, preparations have been made with obsessive attention to privacy and security. Have you thought more about names? Nicole asked. They've been circling this topic for weeks, approaching and retreating, both understanding the weight of the decision. I still like the ones we discussed, Cole replied carefully. But the final choice should be yours. Nicole studied him. This new version of Cole who checked his controlling instincts, who had learned to offer opinions without mandates, who had gradually earned back small measures of her trust. They should be our choice, she corrected gently. You're their father. Something in Cole's expression softened at the word father, still new enough to startle him, still powerful enough to transform him. I like Claire, he said, and Eliza. Not after Eliza Wong, Nicole teased, referring to her formidable lawyer. Definitely not, Cole agreed with a rare smile. Though she did negotiate one hell of a board position for you. The Harrington Technologies board had unanimously approved Nicole's appointment last month, following Vanessa Chin's disgraceful departure. The position came with no strings, a recognition of her rights as the twins' mother rather than a concession in their personal relationship. Claire and Eliza Harrington. Nicole tested the names aloud. They feel right. Cole nodded, a flash of vulnerability crossing his face. Would you? He hesitated. Would you consider giving them Brooks as a middle name? To honor both sides of their heritage. The request surprised her, not because it was unreasonable, but because it acknowledged a truth they'd been circling. These children existed beyond the boundaries of their complicated relationship. Claire Brooks Harrington and Eliza Brooks Harrington, Nicole repeated. Yes, I like that. Outside, the autumn wind picked up, sending a swirl of crimson leaves dancing past the window. Inside, something equally delicate was taking shape. Not forgiveness exactly, not reconciliation precisely, but a new formation built from the remnants of what had broken. I've been meaning to ask, Nicole said, changing the subject. What will happen with the Alzheimer's Research Initiative? Following his genetic test results, Cole had quietly established a foundation funding research into early detection and treatment of dementia disorders. The work had rapidly become his personal mission, separate from Harrington Technologies. The first clinical trials begin next year, he replied. Too late for me if the genes express, but possibly in time for the girls. His candor about his genetic fears no longer surprised her. The journal had revealed a man who had spent years hiding his vulnerability. Now he offered it freely, without expectation. You don't know that you'll develop symptoms, Nicole reminded him. The marker is just a possibility. I know, Cole acknowledged. But preparing for the worst, while hoping for the best, seems prudent. A sharp pain interrupted their conversation, Nicole gasping as her hand flew to her side. What is it? Cole was instantly alert, kneeling beside her chair. Just a contraction, Nicole assured him, breathing through the discomfort. Braxton Hicks. The doctor said they'll increase as we get closer. Cole didn't move away even after the pain subsided, his hand resting lightly on the curve of her stomach. Beneath his palm, one of the twins kicked forcefully, as if reaching out to him. They know your voice, Nicole said softly. They respond when you talk. Something shifted in Cole's expression, wonder breaking through his careful composure. Without thinking, he leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead, the gesture neither romantic nor platonic, but something uniquely theirs. She didn't need his ring or his name anymore. What she accepted instead was the key to his company vault, and the promise that their children would inherit not just his wealth, but the best versions of them both.